Welcome back, guys, to another episode. I'm just about to start my MBA at the University of Cambridge's Judge Business School. And recently I've been going through my past journey to try and think about what I want to do in the future, the next 5 to 10 years. That has brought me to think about what has worked well for me and what hasn't worked well for me. And eventually I decided to make a video on why I think doing a master's degree has really worked out well for me and why I think you should also consider doing a master's degree, particularly in the UK. Now, before you do a master's degree, you do have to make your mind up about what subject you want to study. What is it that interests you particularly? What have you found other people, your colleagues, your directors, the CEO at your company that you work for, what background do they come from? And is that a background that you want to go down the route of? Before you commit to any master's program, of course, you need to be motivated enough to pursue that program. Luckily for you, a master's program in the UK is very likely only going to take 1 year of your life. It's not going to take up around 2 years, which most master's degree programs are in the US or in the rest of the world. So that is definitely something advantageous from doing a master's degree in the UK. Now, you really do want to talk to the people that you find admirable, the directors, the people that manage you, and maybe their managers too. I'm sure they will be very busy at whatever they are doing, but make sure you ask nicely, and most people are always willing to help. So if that is the career route that you want to go down and you find them to be a role model for you, say that to them and they will probably find the time to book a 15 to 30 minute meeting with you to explain how they've used their background or their master's degree or whatever degree they have as an advantage for them and how you might be able to do the same thing. If you already have a subject in mind, maybe go on to findamasters.com to have a look at what your options are before you commit to anything. Now, the first secret to doing a master's successfully in the UK is get somebody else to pay for it. This does sound very obvious, but not a lot of people actually consider asking their current employer to pay for a master's degree that they really want to do. If your employer doesn't want to fund your master's degree, maybe start considering looking elsewhere. If that is not an employer that wants to invest in your future, in your education, in your development, then it sounds like an employer that is not going to do that tomorrow. And it's probably not going to be there for you tomorrow when you really need them. So consider leaving, join an employer that does really care about you. Another tip that I would recommend is if you really care about doing a master's degree in the UK, apply first, find out the outcome later, and talk to your employer at an even later date. Try and convince them to pay for your degree or try and convince somebody else to pay for your degree. There are lots of funding options available for degrees in the UK. You can get government grants if you can't afford your degree, for example. You can also get student loans, of which there are multiple suppliers. There's a government supplier for student loans in the UK, but there are also private suppliers. Now, beware, the private loans for students are very high rate. They do have around 7 to 10% often, and there is often an admin fee as well associated with it. So make sure that if you are committing to getting an expensive loan, then you know that you're going to get a job at the other end. Luckily for you, a master's degree is only going to take 1 year of your time, so you can think about that quite soon. Something else that you always want to keep on the back of your mind is that you never want to stay in a particular job for a long stretch of time. For me, that has been 2 years. After 2 years, something is really wrong with you, meaning that there's a reason why you haven't climbed. There's a reason why you've become too comfortable in that job, and there's a reason why you're not getting paid more and more for that job. Now, a 3% to 5% raise in your salary isn't a good enough reason to stay in the same job that's barely beating inflation. It probably isn't even beating inflation depending on the country you live in. But studies show that if you change jobs, you can get up to a 30% pay rise on average. Now, this does seem a little bit optimistic, and you probably have to always be looking for a job, even when you have just joined a job. That is something that I have always done myself. It's not something that I have told my employers that I'm always looking around, but I have always been aware of what my options are to either make sure that I'm happy with the job that I have today, or to make sure that I know where I'm going, where my career trajectory is. If you cannot justify why you're working in a particular job and how it's going to lead to a better tomorrow, probably you're in the wrong career path and you need to change that immediately. Now, a lot of employers do think that changing jobs in less than 2 years is too often. Of course, employers are going to say that. Now, most role models that I have, most people that I look up to for inspiration, change jobs or change industries. They change something about what they do, maybe just the project or the department that they work in their company, within a 6 to 12 month window. That sounds very fast, but when I have reflected about how long it's taken me to get good at doing a certain job, I define good, by the way, as being 80% good at doing something, not 100%, which I think is a waste of time. If you can reach 80% efficiency at doing a certain job within 6 months, what is stopping you from moving on and developing yourself even further? It's probably laziness or comfort. Now, I will admit that when I reflect at my own CV, it's probably been a relatively conservative path. I've only changed companies about 5 times within a 7 to 8 year period, which is pretty slow. That's because I stayed at a few companies for 1 to 2 years. And if I had to do that all over again, I probably would have moved even quicker than that. Another reason to do a master's is know what market you operate in. If the market says you need to do a master's degree, maybe it makes sense to do a master's degree. Now, the reason I say that is because only around 30 to 40% of people that work in the UK have a degree at all. This is any degree. This is even an undergraduate degree. Even less people have a master's degree. There are less than 10% people in the UK, for example, that have a master's degree. Now, the UK is a typical example if you compare it to other rich countries of the West. So it's probably not too dissimilar to any other country that you might be considering working in. And what that means is that when you submit an application to an employer and you show that you've committed yourself to a 1-year educational program, that probably will show that you're committed to that subject perhaps more than other people are within that industry. These days, if you want your application to stand out, you need something to differentiate your CV. Whether that means you've taken part in extracurricular activities at your workplace, you've held social events that has led to more networking opportunities for other colleagues in your workplace, or you've done any other activities that makes you sound special or different, all of that is very useful to get employers to pick your CV over other CVs to invite for an interview. When I have recruited people in my previous jobs, I have also looked for something that differentiates a candidate from other people. Another thing to keep in mind is that your salary is probably going to skyrocket quicker than it will later on in your career. What that means is, on a percentage basis, if you take what your first salary in your first job is, it's probably going to increase very, very rapidly in your 20s, maybe early 30s as well, as compared to later on in your career. That just reflects that people tend to get lazy, they tend to get negligent around their career development opportunities. They stop looking outside of their companies, and that is quite natural. When you have a family to look after later on in your life, it's probably going to be more harder for you to move on. I have managed to increase my salary at 100% within 2 to 3 years of starting my first job. After that, what I noticed is it took way longer to increase with another 100% after that. And that is pretty typical for most people. Make sure you make the most of your 20s or whenever you have first started to work. If you want to get rich in your life, it is really, really important that you make the most of your youth when you are energetic and you are capable of adapting to different work environments. Make sure you move quicker than your employer probably expects you to move, or when you might expect yourself to move. Now, one thing that has been particularly frustrating for me is after doing a science degree in biotechnology, of which it only took me 3 years to do that in the UK, pretty typical. A lot of other countries it takes 4 years, sometimes 5 years. It was really difficult to find a job. What that led me to do was to find a master's degree that could put my theoretical skills, which are basically no skills in the context of a company, into something that can actually help me do something. So after doing a biotechnology degree, I decided to do a toxicology degree because it was more practical, because I could land a job in the industry where I could actually do something that was of value to an employer. If you've done a theoretical degree and your only options are teaching, doing a PhD, or potentially a postdoc after that, probably you've chosen a wrong degree to get rich in. Maybe you've chosen the degree because you're passionate about a certain subject, like I was with biotechnology. But if you're also passionate about making money, then maybe that choice didn't help you. So you need to switch over to doing something. And in the UK, luckily, once again, we only have 1-year master's degrees. So it's very easy to actually change fields completely, or to do something that is very specific, that's going to give you a real skill that a employer will value. Luckily for me, after I did that master's degree, a big employer within the FMCG industry, fast moving consumer goods industry, gave me a job right away out of my master's degree. That is something you can really expect if you're going to excel during your degree, and if you're pretty good at making use of what the opportunities the degree is going to give you. But finally, you want to do an opportunity cost analysis. You want to make sure that you have weighed all of your options. Maybe it makes more sense to move to another job rather than doing a master's degree for now. And maybe master's degree, you want to keep that in your back pocket for tomorrow, up your sleeve, and list out all of what your options are and do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats about making each and every choice. Is that going to lead to what your goal is? Is that going to lead to a better salary, a better pay package, a better opportunity to develop tomorrow? Make sure you make a decision after thinking about all of what your options are. Sometimes it might be better for you to change industries just to differentiate yourself from everybody else, because nobody has ever done a biotechnology degree with biotech work and then moved into economics, for example. Now, before I close, I want to give you a couple of reasons why you shouldn't do a master's degree. The first reason is if you can get good brand names under your CV, like big companies, big universities that are well recognized around the world, then maybe you don't even need a master's degree. Maybe you've got enough of what it takes to reach the highest position at a very desirable field that you want to go down. Maybe that is going to be enough. Sometimes brand means a lot more than actually performing really well at an unrecognized brand, or for example, being a manager at an unknown shop that is located in an unknown place. It might mean a lot more to a potential future employer if you have an apprenticeship at a company that is very well known and very well desired, and everybody knows pays well and only recruits the best people. It already shows that you have accomplished something on your CV to get to that place. And another reason why you wouldn't want to do a master's degree is if you can learn on the job. A lot of management consultancies in the UK and also other large companies in the UK pay for development opportunities while you're doing a certain job. So you're getting paid, you're paying taxes, so you're getting paid, and you can go and do CPD opportunities and talk to other people from other sectors of perhaps the same company, and you can find out what you really want to do tomorrow. And finally, a reason to not do a master's degree is if you're already overeducated. If you already have a couple of master's degrees or a PhD and maybe a postdoc on top of that, and you haven't been able to find any use of those, maybe you shouldn't do a master's degree because you are not the type of person who can get anything else out of the educational system, at least in the UK. Maybe what you should do is just get a new job or get a new skill that actually has some value to the new economy, and forget about doing a master's degree. Now, finally, this is not financial or career advice or any of that sort. All it is my own reflections of what I have done in my career and what has worked well for me and what might not have worked well for me. If you want to watch videos like these in the future, then make sure you hit the subscribe button and like this video. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this and if any of these tips have worked out for you, or if you think I might have missed something. See you next time. Bye.